Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul joined alongside Robert Ziggy Ziegler. Ziggy, it really doesn't get better than this, man. Undefeated Vikings, 2-1 Packers who are on a roll. Jordan Love returning from injury. Yeah, it's hard to get better than this in the NFC North right now, especially for Vikings fans. This is a real opportunity here for both teams. Please remember, if you're liking these videos, we've had a lot of success over the past couple of weeks. Like people are just been awesome, leaving comments, having fun, engaging with the channel. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Come hang out with us during the football season. We have tons and tons of content coming out, and we really enjoy it. It's so much more fun when people are along for the ride, just having fun. We're just watching football here. So, Ziggy, the Vikings-Packers rivalry, I think that if you compare it to the Bears-Packers or Bears-Vikings, the Lions are sort of on the outside. The Vikings-Packers has been the best rivalry for a long time now. Packers and Bears fans, I think there's the most, maybe history, maybe hatred. I don't know if that's the right word, but Vikings-Packers, it's been the most intense in terms of like actually competing for the division. It's really been these two teams, with the Bears sparking up every once in a while. And over the past 3 years, the Vikings and Packers have actually split their 6 games. It's funny, though, if you go back and watch those games outside of 2021, where Greg Joseph hit a game-winning field goal for the Vikings, they've all kind of been blowouts. Even last season, Kirk came in red hot, maybe the best he's ever been as a Viking, and won convincingly in Lambeau before tearing his Achilles. And then later in the year, there was that New Year's nightmare, just an absolute tragedy. Maybe one of the best performing videos on our channel's history, of course, because we have this torment with Packers fans. But that game, Vikings competing for a playoff spot, Green Bay's rolling. They come into our building and just bully us, just absolutely murder us in Minnesota. So we've had an even number of wins and losses each team. But the quality of the games actually hasn't been that good here. And right now, that's what's exciting about this matchup is both teams are playing well at the same time. The Vikings are coming in with Sam Darnold. The defense looks great. Jordan Love is returning from injury. But the Packers have been awesome with Malik Willis. The defense is getting going. So to me, that big question mark is Jordan Love and how he's going to play. What are you expecting from Love and what should be his return to the field?
I appreciate that you're talking about Jordan Love. There's not necessarily a guarantee he starts, but it seems like things are trending that way. I will say this, is I think we're going to see 2 different performances from Jordan Love. By all indications, it does not look like he's 100%. And one of the things that means is that it's going to take some time getting back, right? He looked a little bit rusty the first week. It could be even more difficult, right, having to go against this Vikings defense initially. I think you're going to see some early struggles. On the other hand, I think that Jordan Love is going to get a lot better as the game goes on. So while I think it's going to be easy to jump to conclusions at the very beginning and it's going to be a rough start, I'm expecting that we're going to see by the end of the game the same Jordan Love we got last year.
Yeah, so he's not going to be 100%. That's almost guaranteed at this point. But that's funny you say that, the same Jordan Love as last year. I'm assuming you mean the New Year's nightmare game where we ran out of the building. I saw someone posted, a Packers fan said, Vikings fans excited to have an injured Love playing. Well, this is what you get. And it was, like a 40-yard touchdown pass that he threw in that game. I'm with you. I think he will play, first of all. And then there should probably be a little bit of rust. He's coming off not a significant knee injury, but an MCL, like a big MCL sprain, that takes a little while to recover. And he's had a very good recovery from all indications. He maybe could have gone last week if he absolutely needed to. But the Packers won't put him in a position where he could re-injure it this easily. I know some, in our mailbag coming up, someone was asking about that. Would they have pushed him to go if this game was in week 3? I don't think so. The Packers they're invested in the future of Jordan Love and the future of even this season. So if he's not, very close to 100%, very comfortable out there, he's not going to see the field. So I think any Packers fans can feel okay about, this wasn't rushed. He just recovered faster than they expected. But you talk about that Viking defense, man, and the pressure that they've got on the quarterback. That's been one of the big stories over the past few weeks. And we mentioned it immediately after the Giants game week 1. We said that didn't happen last year. We haven't seen that in a long time. And Brian Flores has just turned up the heat every week. They're the first defense I believe, ever to record 5+ sacks in the first 3 straight games. I'm sorry, they're the first defense since the 2006 Ravens to allow 10 points.
Long time.
Yeah, 10 points or fewer and average 5+ sacks per game through the first 3 games. So you're starting to get some historical notes for the Vikings defense right now. I'm not sure it'll carry over that way the entire year, but they've just been unbelievable with the coverages, the confusion. You saw the clip of Emmanuel Acho. Remember talking with James Jones and Shady McCoy about how the confusion they're presenting to quarterbacks like C.J. Stroud and Brock Purdy, top tier quarterbacks in the league. Brian Flores has done an unbelievable job. So that's a big matchup that people are excited for. It's Jordan Love versus that Vikings defense. Do you think that we're going to be able to get after Love and put him on the ground?
Well, I do want to say, if you've been paying attention to the Vikings this week, they've been talking a lot about how there is pressure on them to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. Right? It's easy to sit back and say, well, obviously Love's playing this week. But, from what Malik Willis has shown the past 2 weeks, you can't just prepare for Jordan Love because he plays differently and he plays well. So I do think Jordan Love will play. I think that means the defense will be a little bit less prepared than, say, they were for the Texans or the Giants or whatever. But one of the big changes you've seen from Brian Flores' defense this year versus last year is last year they had one trick, and it was the blitz, right? They blitzed on 50% of their plays. This year, they're only blitzing on about a third. Now, that's still second in the NFL. It's a ton. But Flores has shown now that he has some pieces he likes, now that some of his guys are in there, they can be a little bit more flexible with how they approach things. And that makes it much harder as a quarterback, right? As nice as Emmanuel Wilson has been at picking up blitzes the past 2 weeks, when it's coming every single play, just about, what to do. When you have more exotic coverages, when it's not a blitz every play, when you can mix things up, that makes it a lot harder. And particularly, even if there aren't sacks, we've seen from Rasheed Walker, this Packers offensive line has had a whole bunch of penalties. It might be a choice between Jordan Love getting lit up and another bunch of holding penalties.
And then, Packers fans are coming out here saying, hey, if you want to blitz, go for it. And let's see what happens if your corners are covering our 4 guys one-on-one. Let Jordan Love, he's going to have to get rid of it quick, and we'll see how he performs there. But we'll take our chances with our guys versus yours in one-on-one situations. Like that's very possible it's a very possible situation. And the return of Jordan Love, Malik Willis has played really well. I think we've given Malik Willis as much credit as anyone for his performance over his 2 weeks filling in. But you did lack the big play on offense. They had a couple downfield shots, but when Love was in, you guys all saw it in the game against Philly, just week 1 and all of last year down the stretch. When he's in, there are explosive plays immediately. Jaden Reed becomes much more threatening in that regard. Christian Watson, much more threatening in that regard. So if the Vikings are sending in these, cover zeros, like you saw Stephon Diggs say to Brian Flores after the game, hey man, stop calling cover zero. Those will be fun plays to watch. Can Jordan Love read it quick enough and get rid of it quick enough to the right matchup where, maybe the Vikings get burned a little bit? And I'm really excited to watch that. It's nice you bring that up. But the coaching clinic in the NFC North has just been crazy between these 2 teams, especially. With Flores on D, I think O'Connell's also awesome. But Matt LaFleur is finally, starting to get some flowers this week for what he's done with Malik Willis, where he completely changed the scheme almost back to his ways with Marcus Mariota when they were with the Titans to just calling really good games with him. It showed a lot of creativity, really clever, unique play calls. And he turned Malik Willis from someone who was really struggling with the Titans. All the stats, I read them off over the past week. But Malik looked like a very capable backup quarterback. I don't know. I don't want to get into the who would you rather see, Malik Willis or Jordan Love? As a Viking
you'd
fan,
obviously rather see Jordan Love.
Yeah, right. Would you actually rather see? There's no world you're serious here.
Of course, you'd rather see Jordan Love.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I'm sorry. Are you talking about as a Packer fan or?
If you're a Packers fan, you'd much rather see Jordan Love.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking you. Oh, from our perspective, no. Malik Willis has been solid. But.
No. Packers fans were saying, who would you rather see as a Viking fan, Jordan Love or Malik? And I was like, this isn't close. Like Malik played really well, but I'd much rather go against him than your $55 million quarterback. But yeah, no, I think Matt LaFleur did a really good job. Give him his flowers. He's been creative. And something that I was thinking about, Ziggy, is we're so quick to like give up on people in the NFL that you're sort of seeing in this matchup, Sam Darnold, and if it were Malik Willis, just that regard, you're seeing guys on these two teams who everyone kind of said, you stink. They threw him to the curb. And it's been kind of fun, I think, for both of these fan bases to kind of rally behind guys who never really had anyone rallying behind them. I thought that was a really interesting part of these two teams' stories through 3 weeks.
I will say, I do think that the Darnold and Malik Willis case are a little bit different. Sam Darnold has been picked up by a lot of teams, and a lot of people have seen talent in him. But no, the basic point you make is right, that for these teams, a lot of people we're seeing it in Carolina right now, right? People are giving up on these young guys really quickly, really early. And sometimes you need a change of scenery or whatever to succeed. But good, competent coaching with a coach that has some players at their disposal and knows how to make an effective game plan, that's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the two obvious front runners for coach of the year are both in the NFC North. LaFleur, both because he coaches really well in general, and he's kept this team afloat through a tough time. And O'Connell, need you say more? Assistant of the year, right? This Packers defense looks totally different. This Vikings defense looks much better in year 2. There's going to be a lot of strength on strength in this game.
And you said before we started recording this, you said I have a lot to say about the Packers that I'm excited about. So please, fill me in. What were you so excited to share?
The thing I think that's interesting about this Packers team is just I'm excited to see what they do now that they're facing a real offense. I'm throwing out the Philadelphia game. I think we've seen enough. Both of these teams look totally different. That was just a strange game, and it was game 1. But now, in between, they played the Titans and they played the Colts, neither of which are offenses that have really been lighting the world on fire. Now going into week 4 in a divisional matchup in Lambeau, this Packers team, you've got the Aaron Jones revenge angle. You've got Jordan Addison probably not playing, but you've got Kevin O'Connell scheming up Justin Jefferson. And I will tell you, there is no coach in the entire NFL who's better at getting his receiver open than Justin Jefferson. How many times do you see a star receiver get shut down by a defensive game plan? That almost never happens to Justin Jefferson, except when he's playing the Packers.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, this thing, they seem to have the kryptonite, right? Sometimes Justin Jefferson either goes for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns or 20 yards and 0 touchdowns. And I'm sorry, it's not Jaire Alexander. It's the whole game plan. So seeing what this new look Packers defense is able to do in far and away the most important matchup they've played up until this point, I think there's a lot to look forward to here.
Oh, yeah. The Justin Jefferson, Jaire Alexander matchup, and they're not going to face off every single time. But when they do go against each other, that's one of the more underrated cornerback receiver rivalries in the NFL right now, where the past 5 games. So here are Jefferson's numbers to kind of show you Jekyll and Hyde performances. In going back to 2021, he's had 8 receptions for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns, 6 for 58, 9 for 184 and 2 touchdowns. 1 catch for 15 yards, and then 5 for 59. So you have these games where he is, just a monster. You go for 169, 184. That's as Jaire Alexander said, one of them was, was a fluke in the opener, the huge opener he had a couple of years ago. Jefferson said, you go for 180 in the NFL. That's not a fluke. That's not a fluke. That's a great receiver dominating. But then you go back and you have that game where it's 1 catch for 15 yards. They've had their battles back and forth, and you usually see it pretty quick in these games. If Jefferson's going to have one of those monster games, you see that O'Connell's scheming him open. And I remember Kevin Burkhardt yelling into the TV, how does he get so open? If that happens, it could be a long afternoon for the Packers secondary. But when they are able to shut him down, that's why I think Jordan Addison is so important. You said he might not play. O'Connell today said, or Wednesday, said that he's going to practice in limited capacity and he's hopeful he plays. That's a huge factor looming over this game. As great as Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell have been,
they're wide receiver 3s.
Yeah, they're wide receiver 3s. When you have Jordan Addison out on the field, because Hawkinson's not back yet, completely different element. That Is it crazy to say that could determine, potentially determine the game?
Determine the game as a stretch.
It feels very.
I never want to say
that's not what I mean.
But no, it could have a huge impact. He absolutely could make a difference of 2 or more scores for the Vikings, just because, as he said, Hawkinson's out, right? I will say I'm tired of everybody saying the 49ers, when you got lucky, they're a terrible team. They had Christian McCaffrey out, as if like the Vikings also don't have really important offensive weapons out. But yeah, it's without those guys, it's all on Justin Jefferson. And as good as that is, the Packers defense is good enough. They have enough good players that if it's all on one guy, that's not going to be enough. But you throw out a good wide receiver 2. You move your great wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 3. You get Aaron Jones in the backfield. I mean, there's a lot that could happen there. But if that's not happening, I'm not sure Justin Jefferson can do it all.
And that's what I'm really excited to see is, this Packer defense that everybody's been really excited about the past 2 weeks for good reason. You shut down the Colts, embarrass the Colts, and then embarrass the Titans as well. They're really, these two teams in the AFC South, we don't expect them to be that good, but the Packers made them look bad. And what's fun about this matchup, especially if Addison plays, is that when they went against Philly, I really thought that the Eagles, especially in that second half, had their way with Jeff Hafley's defense. While as you played, the struggling Colts and the struggling Titans, you dominate them. That's great. You do that to bad teams. This is the second test, in my eyes, of the Packer defense. Are they going to be able to come out here and shut down an offense that has been super efficient? It's well coached, superstars on the field. Or are we going to see that team that played on the bad turf in Brazil against the Eagles that got ran up and down throughout the second half? Like, that could be very telling for what this unit will be over the next, few weeks when you're trying to get back on track with Jordan Love, or you're trying to get Jordan Love back on track and win some games. That is something I'm going to pay attention to. Was it week 1 Packers defense or week 2 and 3 Packer defense, now that they're actually having a test of another elite offense, or hopefully elite offense?
Well, and I will say one thing to keep an eye on from the Vikings offensive perspective is Sam Darnold does not get a lot of credit as a mobile quarterback, but we've seen with the Vikings offense this year, he's not Jalen Hurts. He's not Lamar Jackson. But when the time comes for him to make some moves, Sam Darnold is absolutely capable of navigating a pocket. He's capable. He got 30 rushing yards against the 49ers in some big spots. He's capable of doing that. So he's capable of punishing you if your defense gets a little bit too aggressive. And I don't know, the big question I think on everyone's mind, because Sam Darnold will be the center of how that goes, is he's had good stretches before. Everybody in our comments is talking about he had 3 great games in Carolina too. Those weren't as good as these games, right? It's not exactly the same. But it is true that Sam Darnold, his last 4 games as a rookie of the Jets, he's had good stretches before, but it's never carried on for more than 3 or 4 games. So if you sit back, we're Vikings fans, and all we've been asking ourselves this week is, can I believe in this team? This week, I think, is the week that will decide whether or not it's possible to believe in this team or not.
I think that's the perfect answer to that, because I've been approaching excitement. I said on the last show with Jack, I've been approaching excitement as if I'm petting a tiger, where you're going to be a little cautious because you're probably going to get hurt. You're probably going to get hurt in that situation. So I've been very, very, almost pessimistic about the Viking success. But here I am, Ziggy, today on a Zoom call with my coworkers, and we're just talking football. I work in sports media. We're talking football. And they asked me how excited I was. And I said, I'm not really there yet. Like, I'm not letting myself get there. And they looked at me and were like, are you kidding, man? You have the best defense in the league, the best offense in the league through 2 weeks, the best team in the league through 3 weeks. And you're not going to get excited a little bit. Like, what is the point of anything if you're not going to enjoy the ride and enjoy the moment? I was just sitting there going, wow, like, you're totally right. I have to be happy right now, because this is as good as it gets. And if I'm too worried about the Packers coming in and just kicking our ass, which, like, they are the Packers, we are the Vikings. We know how these stories usually go, but you got to enjoy the ride at some point, right? So I'm going to be optimistic this week and look forward to this and assume that the good will happen, even though it does feel like a spot where Sam Darnold could, he's due for an implosion. It feels like he's ready for an implosion. And with the Packers defense, another key determinant of this game, is that Sam Darnold, every like 10 plays, I said, has the potential for disaster. And we've been lucky through 3 weeks that those disastrous moments have sort of been mitigated. Like, the ball bounced, he threw a backwards pass as he got crushed. It just bounced up to
some of those crazy pitches against the Texans.
Yeah, like just ridiculous plays, but we've gotten away with them. Green Bay, you get in there, release the hounds, let Preston Smith get after them. There's a chance that things can go horribly wrong very quickly. And for the Vikings, it usually spirals. If you're the Packers, I think you want chaos. Because if you let Kevin O'Connell and Darnold get in a groove, the offense is too good. Like, it is just too good where they will pick you apart. It might not be crazy over-the-top plays like the 97-yard touchdown you saw, but they just get in a rhythm, and he can sling it. Like, Sam can throw. The Kyle Shanahan loved it. If Brock Purdy didn't come along, we might be seeing Sam Darnold in San Francisco. So if I were the Packers, I'd release the hounds and try and cause some chaos and see what happens.
Well, and that's what you got Jeff Hafley for, right? That was the whole plan was, we've been running these conservative defenses, but we want a guy who can get after people, and we're going to add some playmakers that can make big plays. And I mean, you saw, again, not necessarily against the best teams, but even against the Eagles, you can see what the vision was, right? They had 6 or 7 players get involved in sacks against the Titans. Xavier McKinney's had an interception in every single game somehow. You've had huge breakout performances from guys like Devontae Wyatt, who's finally playing up to his draft stock, right? If you talk about guys who can make havoc, on the interior, he has been havoc generator number 1 for the Packers. So, yeah, I think you have to let them loose. You have to let them play their game. And that creates a possibility that, like, you get a 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson, right? When the Texans tried this, Sam Darnold was able to exploit it. But it also creates the possibility that Darnold gets overwhelmed, that he fumbles, that he throws an interception. And in a game where everybody's expecting it to be close, if you can get a couple turnovers out of Sam Darnold, that is all you need to win this game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one. I think it's going to be one where the big plays like that, what the mistakes of the Vikings will determine the game. If the Vikings limit the mistakes, I think they win a close one. If if Darnold's out there throwing picks and fumbling and the crowd gets into it, I could see this being a 20-point Packer win. There's a world where that happens. But I'm with you from what you said a little bit before. If Minnesota wins this game, it is a holy crap, like they're here. They're really here because they dog walked the Texans and the 49ers. And Vikings fans,
they didn't dog walk the 49ers. They won the game.
They were very close to dog walk.
It's not the same as the Texans.
Not the same as the Texans. But if Aaron Jones doesn't fumble, they dog walk the Niners. But regardless, you had 2 really good weeks against 2 really good teams, and now you get the big bad wolf. Like all the Packers fans watching this, we know you are the big bad wolf. You're the ones who usually kick our ass here. To win the game in Lambeau, go to 4-0, create some separation. I mean, this is the opportunity. And for the Packers side of things, it's you get the chance to, you get the chance to be daddy. You get the chance to put the Vikings back in their place. You get the chance to put them back in their place. And, coming back with Jordan Love, what a way for him to return by beating the undefeated division rival who is kind of flirting with, as Aaron Jones said, a special season. I can't wait. Do you have a prediction for us?
Early
prediction. There'll be more.
Yeah, here's what I'm feeling. Is I read Aaron Jones put out this really incredible letter today. You should go read it, talking about his time in Green Bay and how the thing he keeps talking about is how Green Bay is just special. Like, his dad was a lifelong Cowboys fan. Second he's drafted by Green Bay, it's immediately different, right? Packers fans remember the free Aaron Jones. Like when Aaron Rodgers was there and said, I want 33 in the game. He talks about how they helped him get over his father's death and like all of this. Like, it's a special place. And that's what he says. Special place. And going into Green Bay is tough. But I also feel for the first time in a long time, like this Vikings team is special. And when you watch it, they've just got that attitude, right? Everybody believes in Sam Darnold somehow, some way. Justin Jefferson, he's playing his best. You've got a run game. Aaron Jones is getting hyped up, right? Like, he's playing with emotion. He's playing exactly the way you want him to. Brian Flores in this defense. I mean, we haven't seen a Vikings defense this good since the Mike Zimmer days. But this still feels different than even those. It's so fast. It's so explosive.
It's refreshing.
And asking a high pressure situation, I get that he can handle the pressure, but he's missed a few weeks. He needs time to adjust. I think he's going to get off to a slow start. And we saw this Vikings team doesn't let up the gas. If you give them a little bit, like the Vikings teams of old, you can go back and watch our reaction. When they get a lead, they just snooze. And the Texans would have caught up and probably beaten us. We just kept beating them game in, game out, until eventually they were forced to bench CJ Stroud and just throw out Davis Mills to close the game. I think this Vikings team gets off to a hot start. I think the Packers will close the gap a little bit, but it's Vikings by 6 points.
Vikings by 6 points. All right. Yeah, I'm feeling...
They're going to let us down, Paul.
Optimistic or pessimistic, Paul? What are we getting here? I promised I'd be optimistic. And so here's what I'm going to say. It feels like the spot where the Vikings go in and lose this game. Not because they're a bad team, but just because Green Bay's always tough. Jordan Love and that offense can get going in ways. But I have to say, like, from what I've seen so far, I do think that the Vikings are better at this point, in the season. And the Packers might get going. I'm just being honest here. The Packers might get going and be really, really good in a few weeks. But with Love returning, I think he's going to be a little bit slower, a little bit hampered, just not 100%, as he said. And I think the Vikings defense is flying around like animals right now. I think that I don't know if Jordan's going to make a mistake and throw a big pick, but I think he's just going to have a tough day. Like, they get after the quarterback. That's the difference with this Vikings defense right now, is that there are more pieces there. Like the defense last year and the year before that, like they just weren't as good players. That's frankly a big part of it, is that you're just working with a better unit. You can't really compare them because half the defense is new. So I think that this is just a better Vikings team at the moment. I think they win a close one. They don't go in and blow out Green Bay, but I think they probably win this 24-17 or something like that. That's me being optimistic. The downside of this, I could see a world where, it gets out of hand. We're making mistakes. But I really do. If you had put a gun to my head, I think the Vikings win this by, a touchdown or less. And that these two teams are battling all year long. Like, this is not a Vikings put their foot down on the NFC North. This is more of a, Vikings are a little bit healthier. Barely, honestly. Sam's knee is messed up. But the Vikings are just playing well right now. And we'll see. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Everyone, if you pick the Packers, totally understand it. Completely get it. But this is what a perfect time. It would have been great to be at this game, all things considered, with the great storylines. But I can't wait. I mean, this is the most excited I've been for a Viking-Packer game in a while.
I mean, that makes sense. This is the first one I felt like we have a chance of it winning and mattering in a while.
Yeah. Although, honestly, if I'm remembering last year when we went into Lambeau and won, I did fist bump my dad and say Super Bowl's on. And then within 10 minutes, Kirk tore his Achilles. So
yeah, I don't want to think. I'm just pretending that game didn't happen. That's better for my sanity.
Well, all right, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for this preview. It's funny, we sit down, we're like, we'll go 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and next thing you know, here we are with a long preview. But it's a great game. It's a really exciting game. And drop your predictions in the comment section below. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back with a lot more content this week, especially on Vikings-Packers. I mean, rivalry week. Let's go.